Here we are in the Woodshed, the Woodshed Sessions. Welcome to the Woodshed Sessions, Shawn Clarke.
Thank you for having me. It's good to
really
finally
good to have
meet
you here.
Oh, the flames, they cracked like a Joplin rag, and the beers flowed freely like wine. The night was dark, but the hummed melodies were blinding. Courtships flourished and lazy bones were resting. Just one night in old London town, la da da da. Oh, my friends, they smiled like a chorus line and cheered as their devils regressed. My eyes hung heavy, but not enough for sleeping. And my hand was held by a lovely girl named Alice. Just one night in old London town, la da da da. We talked and sang to the zombies and the Clash, the Cars and the Kinks. The moon shone bright, till the clouds came in and dared us to stay, and we did. Oh, the time it came when I longed for bed and a body to lay next to me. The warmth of a touch kept the cold at bay till morning. It was 8 a.m. when she left me softly dreaming. After one night in old London town, la da da da. We talked and sang to the zombies and the Clash, the Cars and the Kinks. The moon shone bright until the clouds came in and dared us to stay, and we did. Oh, the flames, they cracked like a Joplin rag, and the beers flowed freely like wine. The night was dark, but the hummed melodies were blinding. Courtships flourished and lazy bones were resting. Just one night in old London town, la da da da.
I'm going to say that you are a case study in the folk singer as internet savvy craftsperson. Mm-hmm. Is that? Would you feel that was an okay way to describe you?
It's really important nowadays. So and it helps to not have a job, so you can spend a lot of time on the internet.
Fair enough. The reason I bring this up is because I actually first heard of you. I think because you had heard of us here at Roots Music Canada.
That's true.
Were following us on Twitter. Said, "Hey, look at me." Mm-hmm. Sent us your CD. And of course, anyone out there is free to do the same. But I was really impressed by your work and went, why haven't I heard of this guy? And I have some theories about why I haven't heard of you. Okay. But I wonder if you have a theory of your own.
Well, I don't really travel in a lot of folk circles, for one.
That was my number one theory.
I play with a lot of more indie bands, and also I'm really just starting to push my own thing now. Like I was kind of more of a sideman with a lot of bands for a while, and so I think those two reasons might be why.
So you don't come from a folk environment, and yet you kind of came down the folk trail to get here. You're literally from Orillia, home of Gordon Lightfoot, most famously. Yeah. You came down here on a Greyhound bus, if your songs are to be believed.
It's correct, yeah.
And made your way to Toronto and started making your way, as you say, in the indie scene here. How did your sound then land up at this kind of gentle, rootsy, lyrical, melodically driven folk sound?
I think it helps the type of bands I was playing with. One of the bands I play with frequently is Olenka and the Autumn Lovers. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Olenka is a extremely talented songwriter, and she's been a huge influence on me. She got me into Townes Van Zandt. I think that was one of the big ones, and Gillian Welsh, and those influences really kind of pushed me in this direction, I think.
Let's go back to your own journey a little bit. You have this wonderful song, To Think I Once Was Lost, which has gotten lots of attention from the urban blogs here in Toronto. You've been picked up and added to people's song lists, and you get mentioned from time to time. One of the things I love about that song, and what I suspect the bloggers are loving about that song, is you unabashedly are fond of Toronto.
Yeah.
That was an uncommon thing in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
And tell me about that.
Well, that song came from there was a competition to write a song for the 170th birthday or 75th birthday last year or 2 years ago, and I just sort of thought I was inspired to write something about Toronto because I really do love this city. So much great things here to do. So I wrote that song basically in a day and sent it, thinking that would be kind of the end of it, and it didn't win. Which I attribute to a lack of mention of diversity, and I didn't mention anything about the CN Tower. It's a bit more personal, I think, than what they're looking for. But yeah, it's something that afterwards I kind of picked up again and really dug the song, and people were really digging it too. So
well, if I had to make a list of Toronto songs, I would put that in there with some real classics. I'm thinking of Murray McLaughlin's Down by the Henry Moor, and Ian Thomas' Painted Ladies in a Bottle of Wine, which mentions the streetcars, and Gord Downey has a song called Christmas Time in Toronto. Yours has that sense of place, and it's beautifully defined.
Toronto, one day ran away and found a home with you. Traveler from the north, it took the Greyhound bus an hour or two. I woke up from a slumber to the sights of Blurin Avenue. Buildings from many decades past embrace the skies of blue. To think I once was lost. Living in the West End filled my days with charms I'd never known. Laying in the park with my guitar, I'd felt I'd finally grown. At night I'd see the sights of city lights, I walk out on my own. A streetcar to a subway to a bus, and then return to home. Think I once was lost. find myself a wholly different man. I may just move away and find myself inside a foreign land. You never know how far you go while following your heart's demand. I won't forget the sounds of Dundas Square, no matter what my plans. And to think I once was lost. Toronto one day ran away and found a home with you.
In your musical cohort, where are people getting the sounds that they're playing? Because to me, they're familiar. They hearken back to the sort of songwriting tradition that begins in the Canadian scene in the '60s. Let's say in the Yorkville, the Riverboat days. You know, and the greats, Lightfoot and Joni Mitchell and Leonard Cohen and Bruce Cockburn and all these folks. And that I'm hearing that sound echoed back in your work and in that of others. And yet, I don't think you grew up sort of in that environment.
Well, I think there's a lot of new bands out right now who are embracing those sounds. Like bands like Fleet Foxes, for example, are a big example of that, embracing that more folky sound. Iron and Wine, things like. And
Mumford and Sons.
Mumford and Sons. Yeah, exactly. So I think that is I think it's just kind of come back around. You know, like everything's cyclical. You know, people weren't listening to much folk a decade ago, but it's kind of come back around again, and then from there you find out what they listen to, you know, and then you get in, and I think a lot of people have made that journey.
Whimsy seems to be a strong thing for you. It's one of the things I was drawn to. Even the cover of your album, which we have here with us today, Like Birds Too Tired to Fly. It's a whimsical title, and you know, the little chickadee sitting on the arrows shot into the trunk of a tree. Any idea what that aesthetic arises from for you, and how you're able to pursue whimsy in that way?
I think that it's just I really like art, and I like a collaborative art, you know, like music, and it's not quite answering your question, sorry, but you know, like music and artwork. Like Jessica Ray Gordon is the one who does all my artwork, and she's a super talented artist, and I just think it's a nice connection. And I think that's a little lost on people, that, you know, album art. You know, as we're talking about,
for sure.
And we're talking about, you know, embracing the internet and the current culture. You know, album art might be on its sort of way out, but I really like the idea of artwork to go with the music, something to, you know, flip through.
I know. I'll just end with a thought that we interviewed Leon Redbone.
Really?
Last year, who's terrific and
also very
a hard guy to get inside of. I asked him about whimsy. In fact, we were only really able to get something out of that interview because I asked him, as a ukulele player, I asked him about Tiny Tim. And then he went off on this like really admiring sort of journey about Tiny Tim, and then he turned around and told me, "You got to be serious about your whimsy." So you seem like a guy who's serious about your whimsy.
Amazing.
And I really like what you're making.
Cool.
So
well, thank you so much for doing this for me. Cheers.
Good to have you here.
All right, glad to be here.
Shawn Clarke. We both trimmed our beards for this.
Yeah, we did. Shaved. It's an ordeal this morning.
Yeah, I had to use the trimmer and the shaver and the back part of the shaver.
Oh yeah.